Greetings folks, in this video we're going to be looking at the Telesin 6-inch dome port, which is an alternative waterproof housing to the supplied one with the flat port. This one has a nice big dome on it, and it suits the SJCAM SJ6 or the SJ7. Now, why would you want to use a dome port on a housing? Here's a big 8-inch dome port on a SLR housing, and it's a monstrosity. Why would you swap this normal little housing for a dome port? Well, a dome port has magical properties. The problem with a flat port when you go underwater is that it kind of ruins the optics of the lens. It narrows the angle of view because of the difference in refractive index between water and air inside and the glass in between. It actually acts like a bit of a magnifying lens. When you're underwater, you usually want the widest angle view that you can get if you're doing scenic photography, and having a flat port actually reduces that angle of view. A dome port maintains the field of view underwater. It also allows you to do those split level photos, half above and half below, like these ones that I've done with my SLR camera, and it manages that by moving the water a little bit further away from the lens so that the ripples in the water, you can imagine with the flat port, the ripple going from sort of bottom to the top is a tiny little ripple, and that would be in the photo going from the top of the photo to the bottom of the photo. If you can move the water further away, then you get more like 6 inches of latitude in movement of the water to still have that level in the photo. Let's have a look at the unit itself. A little bit of a manual there. It explains what you have to do. Got a handle, that's good, a floaty handle. We've got a dome cover, which is good because they are prone to getting scratched. Cleaning lens. Here's the dome itself. Let's take that plastic off. So we have the front part, which replaces that little flat port there, and we've also got a housing included there that the camera pops into. One of the drawbacks with this sort of housing is that you don't get access to all the buttons or the touch screen. So you have to remember to turn the camera on, set it to what setting you want before you put it in, and then you can stop start with the button there, and you can change a few little settings on the side. Not with the SJ7 though, only with the SJ6 I imagine. We also get a sort of a hand trigger there, so you can operate the setup with one hand. That's optional, you don't have to put that on if you don't want to. The problem with this one is that it covers the back screen. I think I'd prefer to not use that, but in some situations it may be useful. Also get an extra screw handle, some anti-fogging tabs. Fogging up could be a problem with these things, and we get a wrench to tighten up the little screw handles. Alright, let's put it together. So I'm just going to use the handle by itself without the trigger so that I can see the what's recording on the back of the screen. You can see it's quite a tight fit there. That's why they've included this little wrench to tighten it up and loosen it off, which is a very good idea. So there we go, that's what it looks like. Pop the camera in, remembering to turn it on first. Let's actually do that. Make sure we're in video mode. Yep, that's good. Pop it in, close it up. And we can start and stop the recording. With no problems. That's great. So you might be able to see on the lens there, that amount of water movement will still have the level in the screen. That's cool. It's meant to be waterproof to 30 metres, but I'd be tending to use this just on the surface mostly. Underwater, it's going to add a lot of buoyancy to the to the setup, so you've got to make sure you don't let it go, and I would definitely put your leash on there, because if you let it go it's going to float straight up to the surface, and good chance you'll lose it. Now, I really love taking split level photos with this setup, but it is so heavy. It's 8 kilograms or so. It's very, very awkward to use. Great photos, of course, but compare that to this little setup. If we can get a good result with this, it'll be much easier. Now, these little anti-fogging pads, they'll sort of absorb any moisture or any humidity in the air before you go in the water. If it's a really hot day, I would keep this covered up. I wouldn't keep it out in the sun, because it's just going to heat it up too much. And it's a good idea with these little housings, if you've got air conditioning in the car, sort of keep it open on the trip to the site, close it up in the car before you go outside, and you should have nice low humidity air in the housing, and pop one of these little moisture absorbent pads in the housing somewhere, wherever it fits, as long as you're not blocking any of the buttons. Here's a little demonstration or a comparison between the flat port versus the dome port. You can see with the flat port, when you go underwater, you get a magnification effect, and that water edge is quite close and out of focus and moves a lot. You can also see some colour fringing on the edge of the board there. These are all effects from the flat port. There's my hand, magnified underwater, and normal size above water. Now we compare that with the dome port, and you can see that water edge is further away, it doesn't move as much, and it's much sharper, and the underwater section isn't magnified. Much sharper, and there's no colour fringing as well. One of the problems is you can get drips on the top part of the port, which show up quite clearly. The way to deal with that is to spit on the port, rub the spit around, and then the water just sheds off in a sheet. And there's my hand. You can see it's not magnified underwater compared to the above water.